Hi everyone, welcome to episode 35 of the Link Building Show. Today I'm here with Molly and we're going to talk about mental health and how you can look after yourself in a high pressure industry. So Molly, you've had quite a lot of experience now in PR. What makes it such a high pressure job?
So specific to like search intelligence, I would say it's quite high pressure here in the terms of the fact that our targets are monthly. So we have to meet all of our client links within 4 weeks. So that is obviously quite high pressure. Whereas some companies perhaps do it like over a year or, a longer term, but that works for us and, we all just have that target to stick to. I could say like as an industry as a whole, it's probably quite pressured because most of it's not really in your hands. So you could have, the best piece ever and you write up your press release and you send it out to a journalist and you could ask, they've posted it on, a great site and it's there and there's the mention of your client's name and you ask them to link it and they don't reply or things like that. So you could get all these great placements, but for us it doesn't, count towards anything. It counts towards like your, the joy of the piece and seeing it out there, but it doesn't count towards any targets, unfortunately. So it's pressure trying to get just that link is the most important part. So because you can't, do that yourself, that's quite hard.
Sure, there's almost like different hurdles you have to get past. First you have to get the placement, and if the placement's not linked, then you have to get the link, and it's like 2 occasions where you can be let down. You can send something out with no pickup, and then you can send something out with pickup but no link, and you kind of feel the same. You feel like you've missed out on that, and it must be quite hard to like deal with each time, especially when you put in the work.
Definitely.
Put in the work and then something like that happens, it will knock you back a bit.
Yeah, or if it's like, you've got a really piece, you're really excited about it, but then in the news something like really big's happened that takes all the news outlets, their focus is on that. So you could be spending loads of time doing your work and then it's unfortunate that happens. So it's always a pressure of like timing as well.
So at Search Intelligence, do you have anything in place if anyone is struggling, or do you have any advice for the members of staff if they do come across these hurdles and take a bit of a dip in their mental health?
Yeah, good question. So I think the smaller things that, I would suggest are just like stepping away from your computer, that a classic one. You could be so just like focused on something that's just not getting you anywhere, so you do need to step away and go for that walk. I'm very much not one of those people that thinks you just need to be staring at your screen the entire time you're here. So, step away. That would just be like one of the smallest things you can do. I think I've said it before, but I personally encourage people to just do some exercise throughout the day as well. So, we could go like for a walk outside or just actually go to a gym class or even do some exercise just somewhere in your office. I think it's quite good to just get the blood flowing and get those endorphins. At Search Intelligence, we also have an external service that people can reach out to if they're not feeling great. So it's just like a helpline, to phone in and then say, what you're feeling, and then they can talk you through ways to help it, which I think is really beneficial. And then also, as we've just moved to our 4-day working week, I think it's really important that people really utilise those 3 days in their weekend, just spend time with family or friends or just really get into things that make you happy, because then you come back into work with a better mindset, healthier, happier. I think it's also important to just encourage the whole team to share. Like if they're feeling, if somebody's not feeling very great, I think they should be able to find somebody to open up to and have that connection with and not hold it in. So try to encourage an environment like that. And
I think it's like any workplace, you come under situations where you are struggling with something, and if you just keep it to yourself, it will just bubble up and something worse will possibly come out of it. But if you talk to your managers early or your co-workers early, they're going to understand, because they're going to be in similar situations in the past themselves. So no one's going to be angry, you're not going to be in trouble for feeling the way you do. You just ask for some help, say I'm having a bit of a low right now, and it'll be sorted out quicker. And you're right, talking about it will just give that boost to clearing things up. So obviously with PR, you have a lot of reactive possibilities that you can find within work, outside of work. You've got to be constantly watching the news, following Twitter, and it's encouraged by the company to take time to switch off outside of work. But obviously those reactives are there for your taking if you choose to. That can benefit your career, they can benefit your meeting your targets. So how do you find that balance between taking the time for yourself at home and using time to find opportune stories in the news and things like that without making too much of a clash and making it too difficult to manage with mental health?
I think in the role, obviously, it does change your brain into seeing reactive opportunities everywhere. So I'll go to the cinema and think, oh, that could be a reactive, or I watched a TV programme and that could be a reactive. So for example, I watched Strictly Come Dancing once and did a piece on search volume spikes. So it really is about your brain is going to be like that anyway, but I like to manage it by writing them down in my notes. So I know that I won't do that piece perhaps on that Saturday. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to do it on the weekend, but I'll write it in my notes so that it's the first thing I do on Monday morning.
Sure.
But unless for my Strictly piece, that wasn't like a piece that everybody was covering, you know, because Strictly's out every weekend.
Yeah.
So I knew that I could wait. For some things, I think it's a bit harder because if they are like the Met Gala, for example, that's like a, you know, it's usually like quite a prominent time and lots of people would like to cover a piece on that. So it's like if you do find something late at night, you have to decide for yourself if you know, are comfortable. Say if you had a really good day and you're comfortable doing a bit extra work, I would never say to anybody to put that added pressure on yourself to definitely do it. Like,
sure.
You just do it if you're comfortable doing it or if it's not going to take you very long, for example. But yeah, I just like to write it in my notes and do it the next day because I think it's not, you know, it's not life or death.
Absolutely. And I think the way that you kind of said that you go about it, you said that you live your, you know, you go about your daily life, you go to the cinema, you watch TV, and then things pop up, you're not actively looking, you just notice. Whereas like, I guess you're putting yourself under a different stress if you're at home and you're actively looking for additional things that you can do on top of your work day, and it starts to bring in added pressure that you're giving to yourself. Yeah,
I think because obviously your day at work, I am looking for active opportunities, so it's like your brain doesn't just stop doing that just because you're watching something after hours. So yeah, it's just about ways to tackle it. So I would just encourage people to make a note of it and then do it when you're back in work.
If you've had a bad day at work, we all do. What do you do in your own time when you get home to kind of decompress after a stressful day?
I think there's quite a few things I would suggest. So for example, sometimes I'll have a debrief like with my family or, you know, friends, just to like try and get a different perspective on the day, so they show you that it's not as bad as you thought it was, because I think you can get quite in your head about a bad day and let it affect like the rest of your evening. So it's good to get a different opinion on things. I also think it's nice to just like perhaps cook your favourite meal, you know, like spend some time just doing something that's really good for you, or like I'd watch a comfort show, like something that I just could really get into and just forget about work. So yeah, so like perhaps because we spend a lot of time looking for reactives like we mentioned earlier, and we use Twitter for that, so I'd probably try and take some time off of social media on those bad days, because you don't want to be then having to look at something and seeing that opportunity. So it's like completely switch off on those days. I think also it's just a bit about self-care, isn't it? Like you could hang out with your friends, or I'd just like have a bath and, you know, chill out really. So those days it is about completely switching off, because you just want to come back the next day with a fresh perspective. Yeah, sure. And I think you shouldn't let it define you. You know, like if you have a bad day, and some people can get really into themselves and, you know, let it affect even, you know, like what you think about yourself as a person. I think that's really important, to just dissociate how you performed at work with how you know, what you are as a person, because they're definitely not the same. I think you shouldn't let something like a bad day consume you at work, because you can always just come back the next day with a fresh mind and try again. Yeah. And I guess it is only those 8 hours of that day. You still have the rest of the day, go home, reset, you know, you got that other life, that home life, and then once you come back in, you should have that clean slate to try again. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's quite nice to, like, you know, even like read a book or watch a show about something that's completely not like your life, you know. Get escapism almost. Yeah, definitely, like get into something that's like completely different, just to have that break, which is a really nice thing to do. Do you have any tips to highlight for maybe viewers to take away today from the discussion? Yeah, so firstly I would say to just make sure you've got a good network of people around you at work, you know, like your colleagues, just to, like, you know, have somebody to bounce your thoughts and feelings off of. I think it's really important to be supported and not just keep everything in to yourself. So yeah, definitely share with your colleagues how you're feeling. I also think, you know, I'm a very big advocate, I'm in my gym stuff right now, to take some time to do some exercise, especially now that it's coming up to warmer times. Just get outside, get some air, step away from your computer. Also, I would say to have a to-do list where you can even put like smaller things that, you know, don't take you actually that long, but then you get that feeling of ticking things off. So just popping some things on that are a bit smaller before you do your bigger task, so you can go through and keep it structured, because I think there's nothing worse than feeling really stressed because you don't actually know what you need to get up to that day. So I think that is quite beneficial for your well-being. And then I think also just having the perspective that you are trying your best, you know, like as long as you know you can go home and you've put your all in that day, I think it's just nice to reflect and think, wow, I've actually been doing a good job. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Well, thank you very much for your time, Molly, and thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.